Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more of what we need to do. I told you I wasn't done. There's some things I'm getting out there because I think we need to talk about them. Today, voting. I want people who are American citizens to fucking vote. A lot of what you hear from the right is, oh, there's illegals voting. They don't talk anything about legal citizens who have been kicked off voter rolls. And it fucking happens. What we need is a weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, instead of just one fucking day in the fucking week. No, we want something that gives people time if they want to go vote. Not everybody has the same day off. Not everybody has the same time available. But if you give a wider space, that allows more people to cast their vote. I think if you are an American citizen and you are alive, you are on the census, we know you are a citizen, you should be granted the right to fucking vote. I don't give a goddamn about anything else. The most important thing is those who have the right to vote should be able to vote. This site is from the government's main website, usa.gov. Who can and cannot vote? Who can vote? You can vote in U.S., federal, state, and local elections if you are a U.S. citizen. Some areas allow non-citizens to vote in local elections, not state, not federal. Local, the town elections, the county elections. That's about it. But otherwise, yeah, you have to be a U.S. citizen. U.S. citizens living outside the U.S., they have the right to vote if they still maintain U.S. citizenship. Because you can still live outside and maintain U.S. citizenship if you were a U.S. citizen and you are just, in the time being, living outside. Soldiers who are offshore somewhere. Say they're posted in Iraq or something. Those are U.S. citizens. They should have the fucking right to vote. U.S. citizens who have to move to another country because of their damn job. They're still U.S. citizens. It's just their job took them out somewhere. They have the right to fucking vote. U.S. citizens who were born abroad and have never lived in the U.S., your eligibility to vote is based on the state where your parents last lived or were registered to vote. Usually this is in the cases of soldiers who, as a couple, are overseas. They have their child. They're born in another country, but they're still U.S. citizens because their parents are U.S. citizens. This fucking happens. Dual citizens living in the U.S. or abroad. We do have dual citizenship. Some people have citizenship with the U.S. and perhaps another country. Perhaps one parent is from the U.S. and the other from this other country, and so they have dual citizenship. But the thing is, they are still a U.S. citizen. Meet your state's residency requirements. You can be experiencing homelessness and still meet these requirements as long as you are existing within the state or residency, town, county, what have you. As long as you still exist there and have existed there, you have a right to vote, because you're still a U.S. citizen and you can still meet the state's residency requirements. Are 18-year-old on or before Election Day. So as long as you're 18 years of age before, or if you turn 18 on the day of Election Day. So yeah, some states do allow 17-year-olds who will be 18 by Election Day to vote in primaries. But pretty much in almost every state, you can register to vote before you turn 18 if you will be 18 by Election Day. Yeah. It's something I'm proud our fucking DMVs offer. You're of age, you're getting your license renewed. Do you want to make sure you're registered here? Great. So, are registered to vote by your state's voter registration deadline. North Dakota does not require voter registration. So yeah, only state apparently like that. I think you should be automatically signed up to vote. That when you get your license, they keep track, and upon your 18th birthday, you shall be put into, they shall send you a letter saying, do you wish to be registered to vote? You can send it back in. That would make fucking beautiful sense if they did such a thing. Because again, to me, the most important thing is everybody that's capable, that's legal, and that, meets all requirements should be allowed to fucking vote. Unfortunately, we have a number of states that have been going around purging voter rolls. And a lot of the time, legal people who can vote have been kicked off the fucking voter rolls. Texas, Virginia. Who cannot vote. Non-citizens, including permanent legal residents, cannot vote in federal, state, and most local elections. So yes, if you are not a U.S. citizen, if you are a legal immigrant that they're aware of that's living here but not yet a citizen, you cannot vote. Some people cannot vote after being convicted of a felony or if they are serving time for other types of crimes. Rules are different in each state, which I don't think felony should count against you as being able to, whether you can vote or not. That's bullshit. More Republican bullshittery. Some people who have a mental disability may not be able to vote. Again, that's something they should be helped with. If they have enough mental wherewithal to understand a great portion of things, to know a great portion of things, it's just they have other mental disabilities that make them struggle, or other disabilities that make them struggle. They should be offered the fucking help they need. U.S. citizens residing in U.S. territories cannot vote for president in the general elections. Yes, this this is dealing with voting for president by the territories, which are the populated territories. There's a number of unpopulated, but the ones that matter are the populated. These are 5. Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, American Samoa, and the Northern Mariana Islands. Now, that gives us a look at who can and cannot vote. This is from the government itself, telling you who it was. Now, from NPR, 6 facts about false non-voting or non-citizen voting claims and the election. There are severe penalties for non-citizens who illegally try to vote. Just like anything else, we know that most crimes are committed by U.S. citizens, not illegal aliens, because they're trying to stay here in the country. I'm not saying some have never committed crimes. I'm saying that most, understand most, not all, do their damnedest to stay within the laws because they don't want to be deported. So yes, the majority of these crimes come from legal U.S. citizens. And part of that is voting. Available data shows non-citizen voting is incredibly rare. After 2016 election, the Brennan Center for Justice, which advocates for voting rights, surveyed local election officials in 42 jurisdictions with high immigrant populations and found just 30 cases of suspected non-citizens voting out of 23.5 votes cast in the jurisdictions they looked at. As a sample size, that's 0.00001%. Think about it. it says, the Brennan Center survey did not include North Carolina, where a state audit after the 2016 election found 41 cases of green card holders who voted out of nearly 4.8 million votes in the state. The same report said many of the non-citizen voters had been misinformed that they could vote. So still, 41 out of 4.8 million. 41. So 23.5 plus 4.8, you're looking at what? 27, 28.3? 28.3 million votes, 71 cases of non-citizens voting. Again, tiny fucking percentage. An audit in Georgia last month showed 20 suspected non-citizens on the rolls out of 8.2 million registered voters. 0.00024% of the state's list. 9 had a history of voting, and all 20 were referred to law enforcement. So 20 on the rolls, 9 of them they had listed as more than likely have voted when they weren't supposed to. 9 out of 8.2 million. Are we seeing a pattern here? These itty bitty percentages. That by the time you add them up nationwide, you might get one voting district if you put them all together. But guess what? They're spread out across the country, so in total they don't do a goddamn fucking thing. Yes, they should still be kept track of. This information should be known. But it doesn't mean kicking legitimate voters out. That is fucking huge. Flawed studies have fueled false claims. A widely contested 2014 paper by researchers at Old Dominion University has fueled exaggerated claims about non-citizen voting rates. The study, which was led by political scientist Jesse Richmond, drew its conclusions from an online survey known as the Cooperative Election Survey. A small number of respondents had indicated they were non-citizens and that they had voted. Richmond's paper used the data to estimate that 6.4% of non-citizens voted in 2008. But that estimate immediately came under fire. The developers of the Cooperative Election Survey wrote a rebuttal detailing how Richmond's research was methodologically unsound because the small subset of people who reported being non-citizen voters could have easily have been citizens who had simply selected the wrong box. So yeah, kind of the way the fucking claim about vaccines causing autism. Turns out, yeah, the information that came from was one study, and it's since been disproven, but it keeps getting cited over and fucking over. You've got to sit there and smack these fucking claims down when they prove nothing but fucking lies. Small number of localities allow non-citizens to vote in municipal races only. Washington, D.C. had a small number of municipalities in California, Maryland, and Vermont do allow non-citizens to vote in some local elections, such as city council or school board races. You know, things that affect your everyday life. But so far, turnout has been low from this population. Non-citizens are still barred from voting in federal and state elections in all these places, and there are systems in place to ensure they do not receive ballots for those other races. So again, they can vote in the issues that deal with day-to-day life, town, city council, school board. Not voting for the state governor or the state legislature. Not voting for president or Congress. No. The school board, city council. And it's only in a small fucking number of places that do it. Most people who arrived at the border in recent years have no path to citizenship. One false narrative this campaign season suggests that the other people who arrived in the U.S.-Mexico border during the Biden administration can quickly become citizens and vote legally. But the vast majority of immigrants have no path to citizenship. For the minority who will ultimately be granted asylum, it often takes more than a decade. So again, it's not, let's pull in as many immigrants as we can to make them vote. No, that's a fucking bullshit claim. It takes more than a decade often from the time they entered the country to go through all the steps to win their cases and ultimately naturalize. Furthermore, changes to asylum protocols during the Biden administration have made it harder to pursue asylum in this country and eventually become a citizen. So yeah, again, they're not shipping in immigrants to fucking vote. Someone's telling you bullshit if you believe that goddamn load of bullshit. Finally, misleading claims about non-citizens voting can undermine confidence in the 2024 election. Now, of course, we done had the 2024 election, but this is before that point. By focusing on baseless allegations about non-citizens voting in upcoming elections, Trump and his allies appear to be laying the groundwork to potentially contesting the election. You can absolutely bet if Trump loses, he will claim there will be widespread non-citizen voting without any evidence whatsoever. Again, it's bullshit spread by your Newsmaxes, your Fox News, your Breitbarts, your fucking Daily Wire, yeah. These kind of shit stain programs. I ain't saying I'm a fucking fan of ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC. No, fuck those cocksuckers too. But goddamn if fucking Fox News and Newsmax and Breitbart and Daily Wire and fucking all the Blaze and all this shit aren't some of the worst goddamn perpetrators of this fake ass shit that ends up going around. Election fact check. Non-citizens can't vote, and instances are vanishingly rare. Again, just further evidence. It's not something that constantly happens. But people, especially right-wing politicians, fucking act like it is. It is fucking not! There's goddamn clear evidence it don't fucking happen. God damn it. Speaking of all these shit-stained fucking news, air quotes, news programs, Fox News, ABC, CBS, Newsmax, NBC, ABC, CNN, MSNBC, Breitbart, Daily Wire, all that shit is fucking propaganda. You might get granules of news in it, but for the most part, propaganda. Here's one of the things you should know. I don't know how many people know this or don't know this. The Fairness Doctrine. The United States FCC introduced in 1949 under the Harry Truman administration a policy that required holders of broadcast licenses both to present controversial issues of public importance and to do so in a manner that fairly reflected differing viewpoints. So it couldn't be seen as fake or propaganda, anything of the such. Getting me a hard candy here. In 1987, the FCC abolished the Fairness Doctrine. In 87, and this was after several times taking it to court, because the FCC at that time, who were they under? Say it with me, Ronald Reagan. They took it to court and pulled it apart until by 87 it was gone. This prompted some to urge its reintroduction through either commission policy or congressional legislation. the FCC removed the rule that implemented the policy from the Federal Register in August of 2011. Now, the Fairness Doctrine had two basic elements. It required broadcasters to devote some of their airtime to discussing controversial matters of public interest and to air contrasting views regarding those matters. Stations were given wide latitude as to how to provide contrasting views. It could be done through news segments, public affairs shows, or editorials. The doctrine did not require equal time for opposing views, but required that contrasting viewpoints be presented. The demise of the FCC rule has been cited as a contributing factor in the rising level of party polarization in the United States. I completely agree. Because it's allowed echo chambers on one party or the other. I won't say side because Democrats aren't really left. And Republicans have moved further and further and further to the fucking right. While the original purpose of the doctrine was to ensure that viewers were exposed to a diversity of viewpoints, it was used by both the Kennedy and later the Johnson administration to combat political opponents operating on talk radio. In 1969, the U.S. Supreme Court, in Redline Broadcasting versus the FCC, upheld the FCC's general right to enforce the Fairness Doctrine where channels were limited. However, the court did not rule that the FCC was obliged to do so. The courts reasoned that the scarcity of the broadcast spectrum, which limited the opportunity for access to the airwaves, created a need for the doctrine. The Fairness Doctrine is not the same as the Equal Time Rule, which is still in place. The Fairness Doctrine deals with discussions of controversial issues, while the Equal Time Rule deals with political candidates. Which even that's not really followed. Often, if you saw the way the primaries were for Democrats and Republicans in 2016, yeah, it was, even in 2020, it was fucking bullshit. But these kind of policies helped us get newsmen like Walter Cronkite, who was called the most trusted name in news. And even today is still thought of as the greatest broadcaster of news, because his job was to try to do things as fairly as he could, not push for one side or the other to be given more power or airtime than the other, or to attack one side more than the other. No, his job was to present news as honestly and fairly as he could. But the Reagan FCC fucked it over and said, nah, we don't need it no more. Let's see. In 1949, the FCC's editorializing report repealed the Mayflower Doctrine, which since 1941 had forbidden on-air editorializing. This laid the foundation for the Fairness Doctrine. By reaffirming the FCC's holding that licensees must not use their stations for the private interest, whims, or caprices of licensees, but in a manner which will serve the community generally. Absolutely. It's why news used to be trusted. The FCC report established two forms of regulation on broadcasters: to provide adequate coverage of public issues and to ensure that coverage fairly represented opposing views. The second rule required broadcasters to provide reply time to issue-oriented citizens. Broadcasters could therefore trigger Fairness Doctrine complaints without editorializing. The Commission required neither of the Fairness Doctrine's obligations before 1949. Until then, broadcasters had to satisfy only general public interest standards. But the Fairness Doctrine brought in, like, look, we want you to try to present issues of public interest as fairly as you can. There must be time also given to issue-oriented citizens who have certain issues they're thinking about. So yeah. But let's see. Where is the Reagan shit stain? The government enforced right of access inescapably dampens the vigor and limits the variety of public debate. This decision differs from the Red Line versus FCC in that it applies to a newspaper which, unlike a broadcaster, is unlicensed and can theoretically face an unlimited number of competitors. In 1984, the Supreme Court ruled that Congress could not forbid editorials by non-profit stations that received grants from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. The court's 5-4 majority decision, led by William J. Brennan, stated that while many now considered that expanding sources of communication had made the Fairness Doctrine's limits unnecessary, we are not prepared, however, to reconsider our long-standing approach without some signal from Congress or the FCC that technological developments have advanced so far that some revision of the system of broadcast regulation may be required. After noting that the FCC was considering repealing the Fairness Doctrine rules on editorials and personal attacks out of fear that those rules might be chilling speech, all it's done is allowed fake speech and bullshit speech to emerge. '85 FCC Chairman Mark Fowler released the FCC report on General Fairness Doctrine obligations, stating that the doctrine hurt public interest and violated free speech rights guaranteed by the First Amendment. So that's the bullshit they put it under. Oh, but everybody should have the right to speak, even if it's fake. And look where we are. The fuckers fucked over America. No, we need guidelines like the Fairness Doctrine. Three of the four were assigned by Ronald Reagan. The other one was assigned by Richard Nixon. Now, this was back in the days when occasionally you would see the other party being assigned by one party. Nowadays, you'll never see that. There's such a polarization, it's fucking America over. There have been attempts to bring it back. 2005. Also in 2005, you have a second. 2007. 2008. 2009. 2019, yeah. We need something like the Fairness Doctrine back in to set as guidelines. Because it's made a lot of the lies we see around voting unfucking reasonable. Remember the eating the cats and the dogs bullshit? Yeah. Lies about legal immigrants. Not citizens, but legal immigrants. that were living there, that were working, that were contributing. But what did the cocksuckers say? We're eating cats and dogs! Oh, God! Durr! Fuck off! But yeah. Lastly, also dealing with news a bit, but a bit with education. God damn it, we need to get back to believing in fucking science. It's when we did things to try to better the public as a whole. America was at its best. Public education made for an educated public. But I talked about in the previous issue how they're taking away the funding from it. I think I mentioned it in the first episode. But anyway, yeah, they're trying to take money from public education to send to private schools. Charter schools. Christian schools. Look, public funds should go to public schools. Period. We used to believe in science, and that's when we were making some of the biggest breakthroughs. America was at its height. It used intellect. It used critical thinking to think, what can we really do? Some of the things that happened in that regard weren't always good. But damn if we couldn't at least use the thinking, the intelligence, to do things and make things better. It's like we're going backwards now. That shit needs to end. But I'll go ahead and end this episode here. It's already been a long one. But anyway, as always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting links in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.